All right, joining me via Zoom. Very excited about this guest. He is the head coach of the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. I can never say your nickname right, Coach Jamey Chadwell. Coastal Carolina 11-1 season last year, incredible year. First of all, did I already butcher something like 30 seconds into this thing? Chanticleers, right? Chanticleers.
Yeah, you got it. You got it right. You got it right. So that's awesome. We're off to a good start.
All right. I practiced in the mirror this morning. And speaking of the mirror, my goodness, Coach, for people who are watching this on YouTube, you got yourself a heck of a mullet growing in right now. Listen, all those fancy coaches you see on ESPN, 11-1, you go 11-1, and you have the best hair in college football. So let us know a little bit what's going on there. Business in the front, party in the back. I need some details here.
Well, I probably should have had more faith in our team. About week 3 or 4, they said, "Hey, Coach, we end up winning this Sunbelt Championship. Will you go mullet with us?" Of course, I had no faith in them. I said, "Yeah, I'll do that easily, sure." Not thinking that we were going to go on the run we did. And so they've reminded me of it. So after the season, I've not got it cut, and it's been growing for a while. So it's I've been trying to get out of it the last month and a half. They won't let me. So we're going to see how it looks. Obviously here as we get into this next season.
I mean, very important follow-up. They say the team always comes first, but, you leave that office, you got to come home to, a beautiful bride there. Well, what does she have to say about the latest trend in the hair?
Well, I've been on the couch ever since I started growing it. So I guess that tells you what she thinks about it right now. So she's hoping that we can get into something different next year. So as this coming year, so I can get back to looking normal.
So let me ask, this is a good segue to how I kind of wanted to lead the show. Obviously, so last year you guys were, it goes without saying, one of the most incredible stories in college football. But, one thing that you and your players kind of branded yourselves as was the fun program in college football. I mean, for people who remember that BYU game, it was mullets versus Mormons and all that kind of stuff. Is that something that you've always kind of had in your program? But more importantly, how important was it for last year specifically with just how crazy everything was, how serious everything was? Because I feel like when you can, look at yourself in the mirror and laugh, you can have a little fun at your own expense. I feel like that goes a long way in a locker room.
Well, I agree with you. It's something that we've always tried to do because, football's hard. It's a hard sport to play. It's a hard sport to prepare, and we push. But if you don't forget why you play it, then I think sometimes you lose your team. And so we've always tried to do that. I think last year, more than any, it just took hold because of the pandemic, because of not knowing if you're going to play each week. Something, everybody looking for something positive. And then there's this little old, team from Conway, South Carolina, close to Myrtle Beach, that sort of takes the country by storm, and we do it not really caring what people think about us, and just saying, hey, we're going to have fun, we're going to be who we are, and typically you don't get that in sports, and I think we just struck a chord with a certain group of people, and it was just something that people felt like they needed, not knowing that we're going to have sports, and then we have it, and then you have this team that's having a lot of fun in doing it, and I think it just grew from there.
Let me ask you, how do you find that balance of, you guys, anybody who watched you guys, listen, you don't win 11 games without being a tough physical football team. How do you find that balance of, kind of goofy, kind of fun on the sidelines, but like when we buckle up those chin straps, it's time to go? Because like I said, anybody that watched your team, you guys ran the ball. I don't mean to speculate on another team, but BYU came in as a team that was really physical along the line of scrimmage. You guys really took care of business against them, frankly, took care of business against everybody. How do you find that balance between, okay, we're going to have fun, we're going to dance, we're going to shave our heads, we're going to do weird stuff, but when we step on that, once we cross that white line, I should say, like, it's go time and let's lock in?
Well, it's only considered fun when you're winning, right? And so that's
sure.
that's what I said. If you're not winning, people just think you're stupid, So I tell the team straight up. I said we can enjoy ourselves all we want, but if the fun is in winning, and so you have to go out and do what's necessary to try to win the game, obviously. And I think I always make sure that they understand why we're doing it. Hey, we can have all the fun we want to have, but if there's not something to show for it. If there's not something to show for it, then, nobody cares. And so we want to make sure that everything we're doing is obviously to try to put our best product on the field. And then when we do go out and handle business, then let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy the victories and enjoy the celebrations, because they are hard to come by, as you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, even for your players, I know they couldn't really go out last year after a big win, but showing up at the big keg party, you don't look as cool with the mullet after a 35-7 loss as opposed to 49-0 win or something like that. So, kind of a dumb question, kind of looking back, but kind of looking ahead. How different is it? I mean, the guys are back on campus. I know you can't really work with them just yet. They're with the wait staff and all that stuff. But how great is it just to have some semblance of normalcy? And I'm sure everything's not 100%. I'm sure there's still protocols in place, all that kind of stuff. But how nice is it for the guys that whatever communication you've been able to have with them, the wait staff, whomever, how nice has it been for them just to have some semblance of normalcy? Last year, you were able to make fun out of a less than fun situation last year. Now it does feel like things are really starting to get back to normal going into this 2021 season.
Well, it's it's nice, it's because there's still things you have to follow, right? And I think there's certain lessons you'll learn from what you did last year that you might take forward to continue to, put your team and put yourselves in the best possible way. But, I'll use it from a standpoint of just coaches. We were able to go on the road during June and actually recruit and do some of those things that I think you took for granted. Now our families loved having us home. They didn't like having us. Now we were gone in June, but it's nice to get back to some of that normalcy of what your expectations are, and your players know exactly what they can do and what they can't do. Because during that whole year, it was really, hey, can we do this? The CDC says we can do it, but can we do it? All this going back and forth. And I think you got to give credit to all the teams that were able to figure it out and find a way to have a season because it was a challenge. Every week it was a challenge. But looking forward, hopefully, the worst is behind us. I know there's still challenges that the country faces and things that we have to do to continue to keep everybody safe. But it's been about as normal as a summer that you can ask for, and that's been great to see.
Yeah, I don't think people, and I've talked about this, but, talking to players that, you can't hug mom and dad after a game, or you do have that big win and you can't go out to just blow off some steam. So it does feel great to have back to normal. By the way, you mentioned taking things, it was a less than ideal situation last year, but, taking things out of it that may be useful going forward. Is there anything that you are implementing with your program, whether it's travel, whatever, that you learned last year you weren't planning on learning, but because of the pandemic, something clicked and you're going to take it with you?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I think one with the travel and just being more cautious in the way you serve your food and all these different things, sure. Things that can, regardless if there's a pandemic, things that can help you with flu season and things can help you with spreading germ. I mean, just basic things that you probably took for granted, that your team got sick throughout the season, normally without COVID, and they got sick. I think things you can still do to try to eliminate some of those other sicknesses illnesses they might normally get among each other. And then I think too, from a standpoint of just from a practice standpoint, we didn't condition at all during our fall camp last year, which was unheard of. We've never done that before. But it did allow us, because the reason why we didn't was because I was worried if a kid, is he out of shape? Is he hurting because maybe he has COVID? You just don't know. So I was like worried about, I'm going to touch it. And I think what it allowed us to do is we stayed healthier than we ever have.
Interesting.
And so, as a coach, you go, well, maybe was that because I didn't run them as much, So you start thinking about some of those things and, hey, how can we implement that to where we're still in conditioning, but also they're fresh, longer throughout the season. So there's some things that we've talked about as a staff. So, hey, let's continue to try to do this regardless of the pandemic, and see what shakes down. So those are just a couple of things that we're working on.
You mentioned kind of, hot start, playing well late into the season. Last year, for people who might not remember all the details, but you beat Kansas early, frankly, dominate them. I was hosting radio while watching the game. It was a late kick. You play Louisiana. They're coming off a really historic win on their perspective early in the season. When did you get the sense like, okay, this maybe you knew before the season, but when did you get the sense like this has a chance to be something really special as long as we stay locked in and obviously the injury stuff and all that?
Well, I knew before the season we were going to be better than what the pundits thought. Like we weren't very good the previous year, and we had a lot of people back, and so I thought, hey, we're going to be better than what people think. I think the game for me, truthfully, said, all right, we're going to be fine, was actually the week after Louisiana. We played Georgia Southern, and our starting quarterback didn't play. He gets hurt in Louisiana game, and he missed that game. And Georgia Southern's, a good opponent, a good program, and we were able to win that game with their backup quarterback. And I felt like, hey, this team gets it. Like, hey, we've got something here that no matter what situation is, injuries, somebody hurt, vice versa, that they still believe they can go out and make things happen. And I think that's the game that I realized, hey, this team's about more than just themselves, and it was that's when I started, we're going to have a special season.
Kind of another dumb question in the same vein, but so for people who don't know, Coastal, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, fourth year is a fully, FBS team, Sun Belt, all that stuff. I know you were part of it the entire time. Obviously, there was another coach for a part of it who has since retired. What were the building blocks? Because you've beaten Kansas twice. I know you said last year coming into last year, you didn't feel like you had put your best foot forward. I guess it would have been in 2019, but it feels like it's come together quick. I'm sure when you're living it every day, it certainly doesn't feel like that. But like, what were some of the building blocks? Because really, in the grand scheme of how quickly it's been done, it feels like it's been faster than I think a lot of people realize.
Yeah, when you're living it, it's not fast. I can tell you that. It felt like it's been forever because, we started in 17 and we were, I think, 3-9 in 17, 5-7 in 18, 5-7 in 19, and then obviously had a good year. And I don't know if you can look back on one certain thing and say, hey, we figured it out. For me, the biggest challenge was, let alone making the jump and going to 85 and doing all that, was I think we were so good in FCS. Our team was so good. We were top, 10 arguably every year, number one in the country for a while. And to understand what it took to win at that level every week, at the FBS level every week, where maybe at FCS we didn't have to do that. That was the biggest challenge. And it was really just a mindset of getting them to understand that, hey, we can't roll the ball out and be better than the majority of people. We got to roll the ball out and do everything right just to have a chance. And I think in 19, we were 5-7, and 5 of those losses were a total of 24 points.
Wow.
And so, and then out of those 5 losses, we had the ball to have a chance to go win. We had the ball with a chance to, or we had a defense out there with a chance to stop them to win the game, and we didn't do it. And that team started understanding, all right, for us to win these games, we got to do X, Y, Z. So our whole theme actually going into 2020 was 24. That was our theme, how we were going to overcome those 24 points. So I think it was those losses and them finally understanding, hey, we've got to do X, Y, Z if we're going to turn those losses into wins. And that offseason really got us clicking, and then obviously opening up the season with Kansas getting a big win. The story went from there.
I mentioned the BYU game a few times. For people who forget, that game came together in like 3 days. So BYU was supposed to play Liberty. Unfortunately, they had a situation. Hugh Freeze is a buddy of mine. I know how geeked up he was to play them. Doesn't happen. I know all this stuff is above your pay grade, and as far as, you're just trying to prepare your football team, but how does a game come together? What was that week like? I mean, because we're all following it as fans in the media, like, is this thing going to happen? Could it happen? Is BYU really going to fly across? Like, and it was there, and it was awesome. And it was one of the games of the year. Another thing, what was it like to live through? Are you just kind of, checking your phone like we all are for any sort of update? I mean, how did it all come together?
Well, we're practicing Tuesday, and somebody mentioned it to me. A friend of mine said, "Hey, y'all playing BYU just after practice?" And I was like, "Oh," I said, "We got Liberty, And then so we practiced Wednesday night.
You guys had Liberty. I'm sorry.
We practiced Wednesday night. We practiced Wednesday, and the same thing. Hey, are y'all playing BYU? I'm like, well, not that I'm aware of. So I called my AD and said, hey, are we playing somebody besides Liberty? And I guess there was rumors that they, had COVID and all that. And he said, well, there might happen. He tells me when. He said, but we don't know for sure. And then Thursday morning, 9 a.m., he calls and said, hey, we're playing BYU. So I think BYU might have had a little more understanding of it earlier on, obviously with ESPN being there, in the game day. So there was a lot more at stake than just the game. And so we found out 100% for sure Thursday at 9 a.m. So what we did Wednesday night when we heard the rumors, I was like, hey, we better start looking at their video just in case. So we had our grad assistants and an analyst start looking at that just to get ready. And then Thursday at 9 a.m. we found out. Normally, this on a Thursday, you're basically got most of your stuff done.
Yep.
And so you've got all your practice. So we went out and actually had a walkthrough and introduced what we were going to do. And then Friday, we actually had a practice and said, hey, we're going to try to do these things. And then what was unique about it, Saturday, while, game day's going on, we're up there watching it, and we're still game planning to try to, because the game was at 5:30. So it was surreal, obviously. And, I tell people all the time, you can get ready for a game in a short amount of time. I would never recommend that short amount of time. But I think both programs came out and played to our strengths and also put on a great show. It was, as you said, one of the best games of the year in a short amount of notice because all the notoriety on it and all the different things. And it was a great college football game to be a part of, regardless of whether you're a fan of us or not. And I had more people after that game send me emails or vice versa, just what a great football game that I think a lot of people obviously watched and enjoyed.
So this might not be as much of an issue if we get an expanded playoff, but is there anything to be taken away from, maybe it is like a Sun Belt AAC thing where maybe it's not the week of or 2 days before, but, maybe 2 weeks before, hey, Central Florida's in first place, Coastal. Like, is there any way we can integrate week by week scheduling into college football? Because I know it was probably miserable for you guys, but we had a blast following it, and it gave us a great product and some great games at the last minute. And I feel like, again, hopefully in the future with an expanded playoff, it won't be as big of a deal. But it was obviously a great platform for you, for BYU, for Group of Five football, if we're still calling it that. And I'm just like, man, there's got to be a way to integrate that somehow going forward,
Yeah, I think if the playoff does come to fruition, you won't need it as much, obviously. But you'd have to have you mentioned one of the conferences. You would have to have the conferences, the G5s or whatever we're called. You'd have to get an agreement to where your open dates are sort of lined, and then you have a week or 2 weeks towards the end where, hey, we got a chance for Coastal and somebody to be playing for the top Group of Five team. Let's get this game on to help strengthen the schedule, vice versa. I think it's possible. I think it's feasible, but you would have to have a commitment from a lot of people to make it work. But I know basketball is different because the way you play games there different. It's different, but they've obviously done that with bracket busters and some of those things. So I think you can figure that out. As long as there's a workmanship among the conference, say, hey, we're going to save this week and we're going to play somebody in that conference, right? Our conference is going to play somebody in that conference. Every team will. And then we're going to put the best matchups. I think you can make that work, and that would be great. That'd be great for college football, in my opinion. But obviously that's above my pay grade.
Yeah, no, I know. When it happened, I was just like, there's got to be something. Like, this is really freaking cool, not only because you guys were so good, BYU was so good, but how it all came together last minute. So anyway, it was just a half-baked idea for me. But a couple quick ones, but I got to get you out of here. I know you got other stuff going on this afternoon. First of all, 12-team playoff. I can't imagine that there's a world where you're not in favor of it. For people who don't know, you finished 12th in the final playoff ranking. You guys would have, been in that conversation late in the year, potentially had the chance to go on the road to a Notre Dame type situation in a first round of a college football playoff. I mean, probably the dumbest question I've asked since we started, but I have to imagine you're in favor and, kind of crossing your fingers about an expanded playoff going forward.
Yeah, I mean, for people at the G5 level, I mean that's a huge deal. That gives us an opportunity. If we go out and handle our business, you get a chance to play for a national. You're in the dance, and that's what makes the NCAA tournament so March Madness so great. Is teams get in there and there's upsets, and so it gives a conferences like ourselves there a great opportunity. If we have a team that goes out and plays really, really well and handles their business, then they're got a chance to go play for the ultimate title. And that gives you hope, and hope's a special thing. And so we're obviously all for it. I'm sure there's certain conferences that aren't, just because of the way that's sort of written up right now. But I do think it makes it, gives you a chance to have some diversity among the teams that be in there and gives you some matchups that people would love to see. I mean, you mentioned how cool would it have been last year if Notre Dame and Coastal played? You know, it was mullets versus the Mormons, then it'd been mullets versus the Catholics. We went right down every religious organization.
Oh, yeah.
And so I mean, that's a cool, that would never probably ever happen. But because of having that, if the playoff system was like that, you get some of those matchups, and I'm sure they'd be favored 99 out of 100, but you never know. What's that one time might be a special game, just like the BYU game is a special game.
Well, I'd have to imagine, for somebody like yourself, I mean, I don't know how often in your career, but there were rumors about other jobs, and 4 or 5 years from now, you can say, I can win it. That we can do at Coastal Carolina what a Gonzaga has done in basketball, a Villanova, whatever. I have to imagine for somebody, you love your kids, you love your program, it would give you all that more. I'm not implying that you're on the way out, but there is this understanding that you got to be in the Big Ten, ACC, Pac-12, SEC, whatever. Now you can do it at Coastal Carolina, you can do it at Louisiana, you could do it at BYU, places like that.
Yeah, I think that's an added benefit, because typically what happens is you get these G5 teams that get really, really good, UCF, and then what happens? Scott Frost leaves, right? Mm-hmm. And then prior to that, it was, I can't remember who it was, but Cincinnati's doing well, and that coach, and that's typically how it works, and they can't hold on to their coaches for resources, or they want to go somewhere and win a championship. Now, if you do truly care about football, and your administration says, hey, we're going to invest into that, then you get the same opportunity, and arguably your opportunity might be better than some other schools and other conferences that have to get into the dance. And so I think that is an added benefit of that. And I think what you'll see if this does go through, I think you will see more coaches that end up having success at the G5 level, where, hey, I got a great thing going here. Let me continue to build this and still have the same opportunity that maybe some other schools would have it in other conferences.
Fantastic. Last one, I'll let you go. Jamey Chadwell, head coach, Coastal Carolina. I mean, we talked a lot about last year. I mean, you got a ton of guys coming back this year. Obviously, there's new guys, everything. How do you turn the page? I mean, how do you let the guys know, hey, that was really fun, game day, BYU, all that stuff, but this is a new group, a new team, a new 12 games on the schedule, and how do you feel about your guys going into this year?
Well, I still like our leadership, obviously, because we got a good group back, and they were tremendous last year, and I feel good that they'll get us going in the right direction. The biggest challenge is you went from nobody knowing you, and we're circling everybody ourselves, to now where probably everybody's circling Coastal, and there's a different psychology to that. And the main thing that we have to do is we can't focus on last year or focus on the noise around. We got to focus on what we did, and we shared that with our team this whole off season, is what can we do to be better? It's about us, it's about us being better than what we were. And not necessarily meaning I'd love to have a better record, but can we just do things better? And to try to make sure we keep the same mindset. I think your mindset's big. When you climb a mountain, sometimes you get atop that mountain, you look down, and that's the worst thing you can do, right? Because there's everybody else fighting to get you. And so we talked a lot about climbing the mountain, continue to climb, and hopefully we have the leadership in place that'll keep that mindset, which I think we do.
Fantastic. Jamey Chadwell, Coastal Carolina coach. This was a blast, man. I appreciate you doing this. I know we're about to ramp up. Season's about to be here. Thank you for the time. Best of luck. Hair looks great. I hope to keep seeing it on the sideline. We'll talk soon, all right?
All right. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.